Okay guys, I finally got my bearings for the differential. So as you can see, I've already pressed on the new bearings. They're good to go. I thought I would share some things how I did it, I guess. Just to show you. The pinion bearing, I did as per everybody else. I just cut a big groove through it. Took a bunch of stress off. It did crack, get it to crack, and then I just flipped the pinion over and hit it down with a punch, and off she came. Pretty simple. That's probably the hardest one, but got to thinking about it, and they sell a puller that uses the outer race to pull. They encapsulate. So then I took the ones off the carrier and I just tack welded the outer race to the inner race, and I just used a 3-jaw puller over top of the this bearing was like this one here, and I just used this other puller that I have. And I just use this guy over top, so then the outer race keeps the taper together, doesn't allow it to peel up, and that's what pulled it off. Only thing is you need a little plate to cover up the hole so it has something to push against. I thought that was a pretty simple way to do it. So if you guys are ever in a pinch, removing the bearings, you know, that might be a way to do it. I think it would also work for the pinion. If you put the outer race on, welded it to it, and then maybe weld little tabs, you could use the hydraulic press, because I know they're hard to get off any other way, because the little lip of the race doesn't give you enough meat to really pull it off. Anyway, I'm rambling. So I'm just at this point here. So now I'm just going to drive the new race in for the pinion. So this is the dart carrier now, the housing. That's just from washing it. So I'm going to drive in the pinion bearing, the forward and aft one, and soon I'll get the torque wrench, the low torque wrench of the dial. I'm borrowing it from somebody, probably soon. So that'll be that. So we're gonna get some progress on this. And what else can I say? That's about it. I think I got a couple more projects I'm going to show soon. Like I built this little mechanic's chair out of an old tractor seat and some pistons. I'll show you guys a little bit of that. And also built that, got a bandsaw there. I just built a little support jig to stay on the bench. I'll probably do a video about that. And that's about it, I guess. So I'm going to drive these in. I'll come back. You guys know how to drive races in. It's not rocket science. Anyway, I'll talk to you guys soon. All right, guys, I'm back. So I didn't notice this before, but the carrier does say Trac Lok. Also, these little clips, that's for the clutches. They apparently break sometimes, and these ones are good. So that's something to look for if you are considering doing this swap. I have been busy, metal line in the garage, but I am not done. I plan on putting a mezzanine across this way, so I can store a compressor and stuff up there. Anyway, it's a very big mess. And I did get the pinion done. I didn't record torquing it, but it's set to 15 inch-pounds, which actually feels surprisingly tight. But that's what it's set to. What I did initially do was I built this, drilled these holes, and I put the bolts in here and just rested against the ground while I torqued it, because it does take a lot of torque to crush that crush sleeve. I ended up breaking these bolts, I think both of them. In the end, I ended up going with that pipe wrench over top of this, resting against the ground, and that got me torqued to 15 inch-pounds. So now I'm going to actually put the carrier in, and we'll set the backlash. The last thing I did do, which I didn't show I don't think, was I found a big industrial nut and I ground it down on each side to 36 millimeters. So that'll be how I torque the end deal. I'm just going to weld an old socket to the back so I can reach through the axle tubes. All right, guys. Well, we'll tune in shortly for the setting the backlash. Okay, guys. So there's the nut. I just did a quick weld pass all the way around an old socket. It's probably one of those cheap China sockets, but it'll certainly do what I'm asking it for. Anyway, that's just the next step. Okay, so I got this all set up. One of the things when you're setting these in, you have the adjusters. You want to try to center them. Like you can see how this side has about a thread, and this side, focus, has about a thread. So of course I got a Princess Auto, which is shit, but it's like the Harbor Freight version, but you gotta use what you got. So I'm sitting at around 6 thousandths right now. So every time you tighten one side up, it adjusts that. So you gotta play the game a little bit. So now I gotta come over here, back this out just a hair, tighten that one in, and keep going back and forth until I get to the number I want, and then I'll finally torque these up. Okay, I'll keep playing. You guys don't need to see the playing effort, but that's what happens. So again, you can see the tool just sitting in there, the nut. Sorry, I accidentally hit stop there. You can see the tool I made right there, the nut. So this here is 6 to 10 thousandths of an inch is what it wants. I'm kind of right at the low end of the spectrum. I'd like to get it around 7 or 8. So I'm gonna play with that, get it close, and then we'll torque up the caps, and then that'll be set. Another thing I wanted to point out that maybe you guys observed was I put the pin back in and the retaining bolt for the spider gears while everything was out, because I didn't want anything to fall apart, especially those clutches or the spider gears themselves. I recommend that just to keep it together while you're doing it, and then you can take it apart when you're ready to actually put the axles in. Okay, so I'm set up here. Still reading 6 thousandths of an inch. Hold this in here. Six thousandths. So what I did was I took my tool, I went in. Like I said, you move one side, tighten the other side, back and forth. I tightened it to about 10 foot-pounds, you know, give or take, a good snug, good German torque. And then went to the other side, tightened it up good and tight, checked my my backlash, and then I torqued this side to 70 foot-pounds, that adjuster cap or adjuster end. And then I went to this side, did the same thing. So I lost about 1/1000th of an inch. I had to go back and forth about 3 times. And then I torqued them to 70 foot-pounds. So that's where we're at. And then I'm gonna torque my main caps and see, I'm just gonna keep checking it each time I do a little step to make sure nothing's moved. So the caps have about 20 foot-pounds on them right now. I'm just gonna take them the rest of the way, which is 60 foot-pounds. I'll put a link in to Crawlexpedia or Crawlpedia, whatever it's called. That's where I got my information, except for the adjuster nut torque. I had to Google through the internet for that. Okay, so I'm basically all set up, and then I decided to check wear pattern. So on the drive side, I don't know if you can see it here. This tooth pattern here is good. On the post side, I'm a little low, so I think the corrective measure is to increase my backlash. So that is what I'm going to do. Okay, so after going back and forth some more, apparently I thought I was a little lucky, a little too early. So I'm around 9 10 thousandths of an inch right now. That's just me pulling on it there. So I'm gonna redistribute the yellow goop and recheck the pattern. Okay, so I redistributed the yellow stuff. So I just kind of put this yellow mark here so I know, like I just did these few teeth right here. So the rest of these obviously are transferred from putting too much on before, but that's all right. Anyway, so the coast side on these 4 teeth looks a lot better now. On the drive side, turn in here, is good. She's kind of faint, hard to see in that light, but she's deep in the gear and centered. So now I'll torque it up, check them again, make sure that hasn't moved. Well, the end adjusters are torqued, but I'll torque these guys all the way to final. Just to make sure, I'll check the pattern again.